Okay, final session of the day, and we've got Ted Horner, from the Managing Director of Ted Horner and Associates, and Hayden, Aust, Commercial Director, APAC MEWS, using the latest hotel tech to drive more sales and build forever loyalty. Last session, maximum occupancy. Please welcome these two gentlemen. We're going to make it a little bit entertaining. I know everyone's got a drink. I'm happy to bring out another round of drinks. Please welcome Ted and Hayden to the stage. Thank you.
Thanks. I think another round of drinks. What do you reckon? Put your hands up. We'll put the hard word on Adrian for the drink. There we go. Look, everyone's come back into the room because you brought drinks on. Well done. So, I know my late father told me never get in the way with a man heading towards a drink. So, we're going to keep this light and funny because we are the last session. So, the first question to give it an introduction is, I'm going to ask Hayden a few questions. How did you start in the industry and what drew you to your current employer? And keep the sales side of the company you work for to a minimum.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you all have drinks. I said that I wouldn't get up here unless you did, so tick. I started in hospitality when I was about 15 years old, working in restaurants, washing dishes, and then eventually bars. And then ultimately, I was from a travelling family, so my mum worked for Qantas and similar to Adrian, started a travel agency. So it was, pushed pretty hard on me from a young age. And so at 18, I went overseas and started working in hotels or anywhere that would have me, particularly bars. And then after several years of travel, studied tourism, studied business, studied marketing, and it sort of landed me in the travel space in hotel management for Silver Needle back in the day, and that was good fun. But that's sort of when I started to get a real understanding of the corporate side of hospitality. But the enjoyment side of hospitality is really where I think most people's passion is. The leisure side, the being taken care of side, that love never goes away, I feel. Anyway, ultimately corporate travel for about 8 years. I worked through corporate travel, and the technology side of that really appealed to me. And then, went sort of back towards the hotel space because I found this company, MEWS, and I could really see what they were trying to do was to use technology to enable better hospitality experiences. And I think that really appealed to me. I could see the opportunity, and I could see the gap in a lot of places where you go to a hotel or to a restaurant, and it's quite disappointing, and you're paying a lot of money. And I think there's a gap there, and I think we can all contribute to improving that.
Hands up those who go to restaurants now and find that there's a QR code on the table and they prefer using the QR code rather than asking the waiter to come over. Hands up. Oh, okay. As I mentioned earlier, I think I asked the question earlier, I've been a member of the Sydney Swans for 25 years, and let me tell you, always a problem at the cricket ground is everyone rushes out at half-time or before, wants a drink or wants to get the meal. So credit to Maryvale, who took over the catering contract, and the first thing they did in the dining room upstairs was put the QR codes on every table, took the Bar Totti's menu, which is mainly pasta-based, and what we're finding is it's very efficient. The food comes out quickly, and they're now turning over the seats 2.5 times before a game. So I think that's a bit of a game changer. So we all have seen QR codes because I think what happened with COVID, a lot of this contactless environment came to the fore and QR codes really took off. So the question I'm going to put to Hayden is, COVID brought forward the use of QR codes to facilitate ordering. Where do you see technology headed in this area?
Yeah, it was a massive efficiency gain. I think it opened a lot of people's eyes to what could be done for the right types of restaurants, the right types of venues. But I also agree with the whole, customers should have options as well, depending on the location, depending on the style of property as well. where I think it's going. I think there's still a place for QR codes for the right venue, for the right type of service experience. But I mean, there's also alternatives to the QR code, perhaps not in an event like this where you can jump up and have a look on the screen, but things like NFC, where it's directly to your phone. You just scan your phone and it comes up. I think it's going to stay for the short term. I don't know ultimately what the next thing is, but I think it definitely has its place.
I think the process will become more streamlined to the point where, we can make it easier, less keystrokes, easier processing for the credit card side of things. I was at a hotel a couple of years ago that first brought it out, and there was a group was having a drink on someone's account using QR codes. The guy went outside to have a cigarette, and we wanted to order another round a round of drinks on his account, and we couldn't. So we had to wait for him to come back or run out and grab him and bring him back. So I think I agree with Hayden, I think there's still areas to improve. The question is in our industry, is high tech versus high touch? I think at an AHICE conference a couple of years ago, I was moderating a panel and asked people in the audience to put their hands up if they saw a check-in tablet ever being in a Four Seasons hotel. 2 people put their hand up, and there was about 900 people in the room that day. So I think the personalisation side and how people manage it, whether it be a restaurant or a hotel, there will always going to be people who are going to be wanting to, and I've got one client that's put tablets in every check-in tablets, and they're getting 60% usage. So it's horses for courses, and I think you're going to see probably some of the really old-fashioned upmarket restaurants, that we've traditionally known may never embrace the technology. The biggest issue that Americans are having now, because it's in their DNA for tips, is trying to work out now, because of the less of personal services, how that tips. So we're now seeing e-tipping digital platforms coming to the fore. So next question. How many people, now let's do a little survey before I ask Hayden this question. My wife of 44 years is retired, loves rom-coms. So she's a regular on Netflix and Amazon. Each week they send her a list of movies or TV series she should watch. So Amazon last year decided to do a survey to find out what impact their recommendations for people's genre based on past purchases. And they found that, JD Power, someone did 85% of the recommendations that they made for people to watch whatever they watch were adhered to. So here's the question. I know Amazon is a big company, but are we yet anywhere near going to hotels and finding out about, it goes to AI, and the whole thing is knowing that Ted Horner likes drink A or B, or it goes to a restaurant. So Hayden, what do you think? Do you think how far away are we from as hoteliers that have got our profiles, including maybe our food and beverage preferences? How far away do you think that ultimately people will be starting to market their services or to an individual guest based on his spending patterns in food and beverage or anything else for that matter in the hotel?
It's pretty much here. I would say it's just about here in terms of what's being worked on currently and what's coming out this year. Firstly, it's about capturing the right amount of data, and I like, in Joel's presentation, he was talking about how much spend per person in different years and different properties within a group. All that information, collect all that information, and then how do you make it actionable at the right times as well? So, like what we're trying to do now is, because all of our bookings are focused around a guest profile rather than the reservation itself, we're building out the profile information to be able to know that customer so well that the person on front desk or the person with the point of sale system in the bar, they can be prompted at a particular time of the day to know that Ted drinks a Shiraz about 5 o'clock at every other property he's been at, so perhaps we should suggest that right now. So things are moving in that direction in the very short term, as in very soon. and I know we'll be releasing some things on that later this year. And I mean, it's moving from even less clicks on a screen for the hotel staff to, you've checked someone in, and then on the right-hand side, out pops just some of the preferences that they may have had from the previous stay. We saw that last time you had a late checkout and you like this particular drink. Do you want us to organise that for you again? So without the front office, just it adds to their experience as an employee. They look like the expert, and that's provided through the system. So it's pretty cool what's coming.
Hands up those who are regular at a hotel, and every time you go to the hotel, they ask you, have you stayed with us before? How many people in the room have had that experience? So here's the issue. How does a front desk staff know who Ted Horner is before I've even arrived at the desk? Now, I remember staying in a Mandarin Oriental hotel in Southeast Asia in Bangkok many years ago, and I don't know how, maybe they saw a tag on my bag or something, but I remember walking to the front desk and being asked, welcome, Mr. Horner, and I'm thinking to myself, this is 10, 15 years ago, thinking to myself, but some of these upmarket hotels, the Shangri-La and Kuala Lumpur and some of those places I visited in the 90s, somehow had some manual process. So while I'm keen on, hey, what drink do I drink, I still think, the worst thing is that being asked that question. You've stayed at a hotel time and time again, and you keep getting asked the same question. And then the worst thing is when you get to the front desk, the person is not looking at you. They're down looking at the computer screen trying to work out what information I need to access or pull up. So I think we've got a ways to go. So we've got a couple more questions. Robots. Now, I know this wasn't a question I asked you, Hayden, but I have a client that's in the process of putting robots in to do commercial cleaning, vacuuming, cleaning rooms, corridors, public spaces, receptions area, and some research from the United States say from a housekeeping perspective it will cut 5 to 7 minutes off the average clean of a room. So what's your take? Do you think robots, I mean, we see a few of them. If you go down to Chinatown there, you might see in the Yum Chas and stuff, and you see little robots coming around, but they've been around for a while in hotels in the United States, but I don't really see them being universally adopted. So what do you think? Do you think we're going to see a lot of robots suddenly appearing in hotels, or is it just a gee whiz factor and there's no real return on investments at all?
No, I think I love all options like that. Just it has to be the right property and make sense. Japan have been doing things for a long time prior to us looking at it, but I think it's not going to work for everything, and it's the first iteration or the third or whatever, and ultimately we're going to continue to improve like AI has now, and like other things eventually improve. I don't know where robots would be best. I'm not sure, but delivering food and simple things like that, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're going to, certainly in China and Japan, robots are being used far more extensively than they are here, but I can't help but think that, most Australians don't want to be doing housekeeping anymore and bending over and trying to vacuum under a bed, all that stuff. I can't help but think that, like we see them at home now, those little robots that clean. I think those sort of robots might also be industrialised and commercialised, and I think you'll see more of them in hotels. So I think over time, when people start seeing them and then that there is a return on investment, I think you'll probably start seeing a lot more. And hopefully over time also the price of them will come down because they're still pretty expensive. So I've got a couple other questions as we wrap up. So what hotel, and I told you it can't be one of your current vendor sites, I want you to, in your travels, to tell the audience which hotel that you've stayed in the last 12, 18 months that were really good users of technology, and what was the technology they were using that actually made a difference?
Yeah, okay, so I would say where I've seen it done really well in combination with the people behind it. Citizen M in London was really good. It was the experience of it was a check-in kiosk, but when we walked in, it was 11 p.m. They already knew that we were going to arrive at a certain particular time, roughly, because they asked us prior to that. We arrived, there's 2 people there. They guided us to the kiosk. The kiosk was a couple of clicks, and they're like, "Yep, everything's paid for. Don't worry, like you're all sorted." So I really like that. Which technology they were using, I'm not sure. It was a while back now. One thing I didn't like, though, was the room lights. So I got in there to the room, and it took me 3 or 4 days to figure the room lights out. It was like, blue, do you want it red today? Do you want it orange? The blinds would go up when I'm just sort of, trying to get change sales. So some of the tech worked great and some didn't. Similar to when I first met you, Ted. We were on the plane going from Wellington to Sydney, and you were 2 seats away from me, and they did this, nice introduction. G'day, Ted. Obviously you're a platinum member, and they were giving you rolling out the red carpet, and then your TV didn't work, so you had to sit next to me the whole flight. We had a spare seat, so get the technology, the simple technology right first. Does the Wi-Fi work in the hotel? Get the basics right before you start thinking about robots, or branching out too far from the comfort zone of what works.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't know the answer to that. In 2009, I started the first Citizen M in the world at Schiphol Airport in the Netherlands, and I've been in love with the technology ever since. I was in London less than a month ago, or 6 weeks, and I stayed a couple of nights, and all I can say is that some of the things you've mentioned, I think, they're on their 4th PMS vendor, by the way. Sadly, it's not your product. I won't mention who it is for...
Opportunity.
But they were the first vendor in the world to have mood lighting. So there's 4 different moods of lighting depending on your state of mind. The room is 14 square metres. And if anybody wants to see the closest clone to Citizen M in Australia, go and stay at a Little National, because that is a Citizen M clone, because the owner of Doma went to Europe and saw, there's about 35, 40 hotels of Citizen M in the United States and in Europe. Sadly, only 1 hotel in Kuala Lumpur. A company here in Australia has had the rights for Citizen M for 5 years. I won't mention who they are, but sadly the product has still not arrived. And then another variation, anyone in the room here from Marriott? Because the Moxie is another variation of Citizen M. And the third variation of Citizen M is, I know someone was talking about this earlier, is Tribe. That's been a product developed, taken on by Accor. So the technology is really cool. It's advanced significantly, and the only problem with Citizen M is my wife hates it because the bed is at one end and the wall. If she has to get up in the middle of the night, she has to crawl over the top of me to get to the toilet, which doesn't. But the great thing about Citizen M is they've created an ambience in the lobby area where people actually pay to come and spend the entire day doing work for coffee and food and stuff. So they've immersed themselves in the local community. But, lots of interesting technology that they were probably the forerunners of it. So I had no idea when I asked that question, because if I had been asked the same question, I would have said Citizen M too. So there you go. So I think our time is up. I know everyone's probably trying to maybe... I haven't seen another round of drinks from Adrian yet, have we? They're outside. So with that, please thank Hayden, my panel member, and I hope you've enjoyed the 2 days here, and thank you very much, Adrian, for putting on some drinks to keep a few of us here a bit longer. Thank you again.
Thanks, Ted.